What do you think of that whole affair?
It's sad that the American government sent him back because he was automatically used as a propaganda, banner. But at the same time, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a child and there's family there. But yeah, he will have had a better life here if not for whatever happened. 25 years later, he's still being utilized.
I remember driving into Havana, and there's a square with a big monument on it for Elias Gonzalez. It's crazy, it's super crazy.
They're good at propaganda. They're very good at propaganda.
They're into it, yeah. And the thing that the first time I went there that struck me so vividly, it was a little better last time, but it was it was like this like almost like Madrid or something or Paris sort of falling into the sea. That whole drive along the seaport was just empty with collapsing buildings. It just was sad.
Yes, good morning. Now we're going to read a little bit of the Peacemaker.
Of an apocalyptic
Are you hooked into
right?
the other device?
It's a beautiful architecture everywhere that is getting eaten by time. And the people in there have no resources to do anything about it.
It looks kind of fuchsia.
Their houses are collapsing. I remember my house, the walls will peel off like layers and layers because of the salt in the air being so close to the ocean, because I was in Havana, and there was nothing we couldn't do. We couldn't buy anything to fix them. When the special period was happening, we had water 3 times a week.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wobbly orb. It's not
we had power that came around 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then we made sure that we kept our fridges closed so that we didn't lose whatever was in there. I don't want to equalize whatever they're dealing with right now with what I lived, but it is familiar to me. I know how horrible the experience they're living in right now, and I wish that will change.
Do you think that having Marco Rubio in there in the geopolitical helm will help? Do you think he can reach the Cuban people differently than somebody else?
When we hit the pothole, I worry. I really do not know. Cubans are very well known for not taking orders from anybody. I think they have to find somebody from within that has that can reach out to them. We have 1902, right? We have 1959. We have all these other governments.
I know that.
How's this for reading? Is that okay? Yeah, it kind of has a reggae style to it. So that's exactly what it is. Kind of. Page are we on? Page 12, right? Let's see, where were we? Do you remember where we were? We'll just start up at the top of page 12. I think we actually read to over here. Hold on. We'll just reread page 12 and start there. Or continue there, I should say. Good, thank you. You're welcome. Alright, Nuno, with a sense of accomplishment that fairly showed from his youthful face, recounted every particular of the expedition frankly, with amazing detail. He concluded with the words, "The Castilians are many but badly ordered and little watchful. With a few brave men of ours and a good captain, I believe that they could be easily routed." Don Alvaro looked as though he were about to burst with pride. The queen had paused in her meal. She took in the flashing eyes, the youthful figure, and caught the sweet blend of poise and modesty that characterized the amazing speech. When Nuno finished, she said, "Well done," and she smiled. Nuno thought she must indeed be as he had heard, the most beautiful woman in the world. The bending towards the king, the sovereign lady whispered in her husband's ear. The king shrugged and said, "Do as you please, my lady." Then, to the amazement of all, on that first day of Nuno's arrival in Santarem, and on the day of his very first soldier experience, the queen of the realm straightened and said, "I shall make you my knight." The expression on Nuno's face must have been as full of a surprise as a cloud-blanketed sky at the sudden appearance of the sun. His mouth open, his great dark eyes wide and brighter than ever. The queen, seeing the boy's emotion, gestured for him to approach. She placed her hand impulsively on his shoulder and said, "I shall arm you myself, as soon as the ceremony can be performed."
Oh wow, those clouds look really awesome. Let me see the clouds. Oh, that looks really cool. I'll keep it out looking at the sky. Over this way or that way look better? Over that way? Yeah, that looks cool. Alright.
I shall arm you myself as soon as the ceremony can be performed. Hold on. A few days later, the ceremony was solemnly performed in the place of Santarem. It had been delayed because they could find no armor that would fit a boy so slight, and when the search had proved vain and it was thought that a special suit of armor would have to be made for the occasion, the queen remembered the slight stature of the youth, only 2 years older than Nuno, who had been knighted some time before. The name of this youth, a name which we shall hear often before the story is told, Master Dioviz, who would one day be king. The queen ordered that the armor of Master Dioviz be brought, that Nuno might be knighted without delay. And thus Nuno was knighted at the hand of the queen, when he was but 13 years of age, and in the armor of Master Dioviz, the king's own brother. Things went from bad to worse for King Ferdinand, who had hardly hoped anyway to win more than partial freedom from Castile. And a short time to avoid still greater evils, the Pope intervened and insisted that peace be made. One of the severest conditions of the peace pact was the surrender of several localities to Castile, which would ever leave an open road for the Castilian armies to re-enter Portugal. Several of the usual political marriages were also a part of the peace pact. These marriages were to bind the political house of Spain and Portugal. These marriages were to bind the political houses of Spain and Portugal to guarantee friendly relations. The King of Portugal promised to give his sister in marriage to the brother of the King of Spain. The two kings met at Valada, and 2 days later the nuptials were celebrated. The King of Castile retired with his army from Portugal, and Ferdinand re-entered Lisbon. Nuptials. Nuptials. What did I say? Nuptials. 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 And the new court has special equerry to the queen was Sir Nuno Alvarez Pereira, 13 years old. It was not that day in Santarem when impetus and self-willed, Chapter 2, Reality Shatters Dreamland, page 15. I started reading Chapter 2 without saying the name of the chapter.
You're welcome. Thank you. Cheers. It's good water.
Chapter 2. Reality shatters dreamland. That's my cushion. It was not that day in Santorum when impetuous and self-willed Queen Lenora gave Nuno his sword after the mystic words, "May God make you a good and noble knight," that Nuno Alvarez really became a knight. He became a knight that day. He resolved to be like Sir Galahad, and turning with large, ingenious eyes to the Lady Irene, said, "Mother, my fair lady, shall be the Blessed Virgin, the fairest of all, and I shall carry her token with me everywhere." And little Nuno adjusted his brown scapular over his heart. The token his lady had brought from heaven through the English saint, named Simon Stock, little more than 100 years before. Lady Irene repressed the tears that welled in the corners of her eyes, and swept Nuno into her arms with an impassioned heart-sob of prayer, holding him close to her a long moment. When she had control of herself and of her voice, she slowly released him and said, "Nuno, no resolution could be greater. Your lady will never betray you if you are ever faithful to her." This was the time that the news of those devotions, the rosary and the scapular, had traveled throughout Europe. Scapular had traveled throughout Europe. Doing the best I can. I got those jagged teeth digging into my tongue more. Yeah, a few more pieces shattered off. So it's been a little more irritating, so I've been trying not to read out loud as much. Yeah, this is just for class. No, it's volunteer. It's not mandatory. I'm not complaining. I was just saying, apologizing my pronunciation. So if it seems like I'm having a hard time, I didn't have Novocaine or anything. All is good. All right. Anyways, the report had it that the rosary had been given in the founder of the Friars Preachers, St. Dominic. The Virgin had told the saint that if people would say the rosary, Hershey would be extinguished and many blessings would come. And the scapular had been given to the general of the Carmelite order, St. Simon Stock, with the promise, "Whosoever dies in this shall never suffer eternal fire." For a while no one dared believe, but through the rosary of the Albigensians, who had been destroying the faith in Europe, were utterly defeated, and everywhere this brown badge was the vehicle of miracles. The dead were raised to life at its touch. The sick were cured. Marvelous conversations were wrought. Well, that raised their spirits really quick. I'll point it back outside. Yes, thank you. Alright, dead were raised to life. Blah, blah, blah. At its touch, the sick were cured. Marvelous conversions were wrought. Right, so they're not saying like someone was dead and they came to life, being raised from the dead. The dead were raised to life. They were so lifeless. And then all of a sudden, they got some good news and look at them go.
They got all this energy. They're right. I mean, sometimes just information or capabilities can really raise someone up from the dead. Hope, as they call it. What's that? Yeah, so with this particular situation, a lot of people ask that as though why I'm not, just completely beside myself. People always say that they'd be in tears, this, that, and then you get the other end, oh, I'd kill that motherfucker. So because I'm not completely wallowing and distraught, or appear that way, or have taken that motherfucker's head off like a lot of you say you would do, right? Because those things haven't happened, some people think, oh, it can't be real. Right. So anyways, we've been doing this for a long time. Right, so have you ever seen, let's take a police officer for an example. Right, a police officer might watch a movie that's not even real, it's just a movie. Might just be based on a true story. So there, you start to cry, you're laughing. It might make you angry. Right, sometimes you hear true stories. Or just things happening in life. Oh, that was so sad, that was funny. You're laughing, you're crying. Could be something traumatic you're talking about. Your voice starts to shake. You start to cry. Hyperventilate sometimes. People really can be overcome. When memories bring back. Right, so it's important. And thank goodness we work with a lot of good people from around the world. We have since we were young children. Yeah, a lot of the people around here don't seem to get that. And what they've been doing here, especially since 2008, 9, and 10, is absolutely disgusting and horrible. And it needs to be addressed. Right, so sometimes when we're talking about cases that have already been solved, it's absolutely horrific. A 3-year-old was beaten to death by an angry, grown, over-medicated person. A confused. They were abused too. Okay? Right, so I mean, it can make you cry, angry, you feel these emotions. As with the situation here, with my own children, knowing what we know. The little boy he beat up in the tub makes us very angry and sad when we think about those things. Right, so you have to accept the things you can't change. And when you understand these networks and the connections to the activist groups and the drug trafficking, a lot of bullshit we don't fucking care about. We really don't even get involved or pay any attention to that since we were kids. And people get upset with us sometimes about that as though they expect us to teach people a lesson. Like, what do you want us to do about drug dealers or turtle washers or psychos? So what? Leave them be. Are they hurting you? Right, when you get into drug dealing and stuff, okay, well, so what? Listen to them. They all want it. All these retired sports players, the trafficking lines that go to, you know what we're talking about. They all talk about all the drugs they do. Retired sports players, they need their steroids and pain medications. Then they like to do psychedelics when they come off of the drugs and recover. Okay, so where do you think that comes from? And then people get angry. Right, and then these investigations that happen when people do say, yeah, it's right there. This has been happening since I was a kid, and it gets really sick and old and disgusting. Back in 2008 and 9, how some of these investigations opened the door for certain people investigating the Karens and the non-vaxxers that they were fearing, really opened the door for a lot of evil. Not all those investigators and kids and adults that are getting the Karens and the non-vaxxers and the bullies and doing the drug investigations, not to mention a lot of the psychos that had sticks up their ass since we were kids with the systemic racist stuff. They used that for years as an excuse as to why it's okay to kill us and just leave us in the woods for dead. Right, I know, we deserve it. We're just a drunk, right? Yeah, we were put on the programs when we were 18 for being an alcoholic. 18. Yeah, we were an alcoholic. We had crashed our car, had no UIs, pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, we were already on some programs and being heavily watched because of the cartel associations and child molesters associated to our family, right? Yeah, it's amazing how these adults around here are ignoring all these things and trying to act like what we speak of is all conspiracy. Yeah, you sick fucking pieces of shit around here need to wake the fuck up. I'd pack your shit and get the fuck out of here, and I'd seriously sell your businesses. Anyone listening, we're in Augusta, Maine. I'm at the Governor John Hill Mansion. The abuser's name is Michael Scott Garand. Him and his sick fucking mother have custody of my 2 children. They're 2 of the most abusive, sick people I've ever met in my life. I lived with them for 7 years. I think I know, and many of you are aware what's going on here and trying to take advantage, getting your foot in the door. I know, you've already accomplished a lot, haven't you? Many have accomplished what you have and moved on. Are you just going to sweep through too, or are you going to try to stay put and stand your ground? Yeah, you need to pack your shit and get the fuck out of here. I'd stop protecting child molesters and sick fucking criminals if I were you. Yeah, it's one thing. It's one thing to do drugs. Share them with your friends. Yeah, but you can't sell them to the kids on the street, right? Dude, they're so fucked. By the time they're a teenager, half of them, they've been pumped up with vaccines, with cancer vaccines to prevent the cancers that are caused by the other vaccines, psychosomatic drugs, antidepressants, right? Calm this one down. That one's very lethargic. Pep it up a little bit. Right? How many kids are getting prescribed psychosomatic drugs by the time they're 12, 13 years old? Isn't that fucking amazing? I know if they're younger, it's hyperactivity, and then when they're hitting, the pubescent years, and basic human functioning isn't being explained, and with what's been going on in the schools, boys and girls locker room making national attention, and yet our children being fucked and tortured by these punks, getting the Karens and the non-vaxxers gets totally ignored. And they're like, yeah, get the non-vaxxers. They're going to kill us. They're going to bring back measles. You want to buy some Botox? Look, I barely have any wrinkles. You don't want those frown lines to show, sweetheart. Yeah, I'd wake the fuck up if I were you. Right, so my name's Mary. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns about that. Yeah, a lot of people are well aware of what's going on here. So you can help by acknowledging the issues with the vaccines and overprescribing of SSRIs, the vaccine-injured children, how we beat up the little boy in a tub, tried to kill us, dog's leg that blew up. It's amazing how you sick fucks are ignoring all of this. I'd pack your shit and get the fuck out of here. Or wake the fuck up and acknowledge reality. No need for apologies. You need to get the children out of the custody of those sick fucks is what you need to do. We're right here. Anyways, whosoever dies in this shall never suffer eternal fire. For a while, no one dared believe, but through the rosary, the Albigensians, who had been destroying the faith in Europe, were utterly defeated. And everywhere this brown badge was the vehicle of miracles. The dead were raised to life at its touch. The sick were cured. Marvelous conversations were wrought. And in 1322, 37 years before Nuna's birth, Pope John the 22nd, almost immediately after his election to the papacy, had issued a bull known as the Sabbatine. Yeah, look that up. It's a bull, like a B-U-L-L. Yeah, a bull known as the Sabbatine. S-A-B-B-A-T-I-N-E. Sabbatine. Potato. Get the fuck out of here. Known as the Sabbatine. Which is it? I can't go on any further till I know. Oh, neither? Everyone's like, Sabbathine. Oh, Sabbathine. Oh, that makes... No, there's no H. Sabbatine. I'm going to say Sabbatine. How about that? Sabbatine. In which he declared that those who wore this brown scapular faithfully would in addition observe chastity according to their state and say certain daily prayers in honor of Mary, who would be freed from purgatory on the first Saturday after death. The Pope said that he had received the command of this great indulgence from heaven. Throughout the church, therefore, people were discussing and practicing these two devotions. From pope to peasant, they were like a great and powerful spiritual medicine given by a great motherly physician to cure the evils of the day. The immediate followers of St. Simon Stock of St. Dominic, as also of St. Francis of Assisi and St. Bernard of Clairvaux, were there to talk of them. The virtues of these saints were being extolled by their thousands of followers over all Europe. A chapel was honored in Rome and is to this day where St. Dominic, St. Francis, and St. Agulus, a great Carmelite preacher of the day, later martyred, are said to have met together and recognized each other, though they had never been introduced. Among the many prophecies they made to each other was the one by St. Dominic. One day the scapular of the Rosary will be Our Lady's instruments for saving the world. The devotion of Nuno to the Blessed Virgin, his choice of her as his lady, was a part of him for obvious reasons. It sprang from the boy's own goodness and from association with the monks of the various orders who stopped frequently at Bunjardin, especially